yes, it's coming in 3, 2, 1. On the air with FDT-TV, the premier West Ham and Arsenal football podcast, brought to you every Monday by Michael Hawes and Ian Varker. Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. As it said in the intro, my name is Ian and I'm joined by...
I'm Mike.
And we are back. And if you are listening audio only, I do apologise. I had a spate of shitting the bed, so that didn't get uploaded last week. So we just decided to miss it. It's coming out today when I realised I hadn't done it. But anyway, Mike, not much football's gone on apart from the AFCON, which is now finished. But how you been?
Kind of the same as you, mate. Shitting myself to death. Luckily, I think obviously from looking at us now, we're both feeling a lot better. The transfer window was extremely disappointing in more ways than one for Arsenal fans, I think, and for West Ham fans as well. Some people got some good deals. We didn't get any deals apart from some American kid we've bought. He's on loan for the rest of the season, and then next season is going to be shipped out on loan in Europe to further his progression. Very much like a William Saliba type deal. And then we may see him in possibly 2025, 26, maybe, if we're lucky, if he's not sold before then.
No, we're going on a big contract then. You'll let him go on the free.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, the least said about that, the better. But yeah, a disappointing transfer window. Congratulations to I think it was Senegal yesterday for winning the African Cup of Nations in a penalty shootout. I've got to say some of those penalties were a little bit questionable, a bit unlucky as well. I think for the guy that hit the post.
I know they weren't the favourites. Who was? I was going to say Colombia. They're not in AFCON. That's the same fucking country. Whoever were the favourites, Cameroon. That's it. The hosts were the favourites. But when you look at the squads, I think Senegal had the best squad, regardless. Mane, Mendy, Koulibaly. When you look at the top names across Europe, their squad was filled with them. Not saying that the pundits got it wrong, and there might have been some match fixing. Yarmolenko. We'll get into that later. But yeah, so just very quickly, FA Cup. I said it would be a potential banana skin, and it was a potential banana skin because West Ham scraped through 2-1. We scored in. we I don't want to say we like leaving it late, but we scored in the 91st minute and 121st minute. Both blinding goals. I mean, are world beaters, but yeah, there is also a little thing going on at the minute. Yarmolenko has been reprimanded about betting, and not many people have tied 2 and 2 together. So he's been reprimanded for advertising in a betting company in Ukraine, his homeland Ukraine, and so that's going to be investigated further. I don't know whether the number one bet is, are we going to be invaded or not, but that's maybe for a different podcast to discuss. Political pod. We don't agree. We just do football here. But he also come out with one of the worst dives I've ever seen on a football pitch, and penalty wasn't given for it, which is quite good because that's correct. But it does make me wonder if he's been advertised for a betting company. He's now in partnership with them and whatnot. Was there some sort of bet on that he would win a penalty during the game? Not saying there was, but wouldn't be. Stranger things have happened. Do you know what I mean? But we are through to the next round where we take on somebody else, and I was going to say who, but I cannot remember. It's not the hardest of draws. It's not the easiest of draws, but it's a draw. I think it's Southampton away. Southampton away. That's correct. That's who we have got. Sorry. Having a little brain fart over here. But yeah, so that's what the FA Cup does to you, isn't it? But yeah, so we do have Premier League football back this week, and we have some predictions to make. So Mike, before we make these predictions, can you give us a little score update? Because I believe little birdie tells me I'm still in the lead.
No, you're romping away, mate. You're absolutely romping away.
Like a good old
So
romp.
going into this week, I need to pick up some serious points. I need some scores, correct scores. That's all I need. But I will take for you to have incorrect scores and incorrect results. So, Ian, you are currently on 37 points, and I'm on 30. I am straggling. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned, mate, because my glorious little FDT-TV trophy, 2 years on the bounce, it's in jeopardy, mate.
There's a little space here.
No, it's not happening.
There's a little space. It can go right there. Look, lovely.
No, not at all. It's not happening. Get over it. So yes, you are currently 7 points in the lead. So I need to pick up some serious pointage over the next few weeks.
Well, considering there's 3 games this week that we're going to predict, obviously let us know your predictions on Twitter or in the comment section below, or wherever you want to let us know your predictions. We always like a little caveat to it. But if I get all of these wrong and you get all correct scores, you go in the lead by 2 points.
Yep.
So it's for those of you who don't know, it's very much like a normal football league. For a correct score, you get 3 points. For a correct result, you get 1, and if it's incorrect, you get nothing. But yeah, so the very first game is actually West Ham take on Watford tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I give you a little bit of a rundown on my thoughts on that game? So Roy Hodgson was the first Watford manager, I think, in forever to start a game by not losing and keeping a clean sheet against Burnley, although Burnley are arguably one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. I was fairly confident going into it, considering the FA Cup, but then the FA Cup happened and we were diabolical. Antonio's still not back from Jamaica duty, is my understanding. So that leaves us without a striker. And yeah, it could be an interesting game. I think Watford could be there for the taking, but under a new manager, everyone seems to sort of have a little uplift, don't they, at Watford? So, do you know what? We're at home. I'm going to go 2-2. I don't think we're going to lose. Yeah, but both defences are terrible, and I think Zuma's out injured again. From what I understand, not for a long term, but I think he'll miss this one.
Okay, so you've gone for 2-2. I've gone for slightly different. Just listening to what you were saying about the new manager bounce, we do see it quite frequently. One of the games that we'll possibly come on to talk about, in fact, that we will come on to talk about a bit later on, has very prevalent of the new manager bounce. So, yeah, Roy Hodgson. I think he's a fantastic manager, given the right squad. I think he was possibly his time at Crystal Palace was he'd done all he could at Crystal Palace, but by no means did we think he was ever going to be done. It was only going to be a matter of time before he was kind of snapped up again before he actually retires, which I don't think he ever will retire, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, he's about 107 now, isn't he?
Yeah, at least. In fact, I think it was 107 when he took over at Crystal Palace. So, good old boy Hodgson. I think he's going to be setting up. Obviously, knowing how well that West Ham have played this season and for last season, or for majority of this season and a lot of last season, I think it's going to be a difficult game for you guys. So I am going to go for a Watford 2-1 win.
Ooh, Watford 2-1. A little bit of me is dreading that, because it could happen, and that means that we're going in free fall and potentially could end up 10th if all the teams around us win their games in hand. But let's not discuss that. The next game, Mike, is Arsenal are travelling all the way up to Wolverhampton to take on Wolves, of all people.
Yes. Yeah, so this is going to be our first game in quite a while. Obviously, we've had the 2-week winter break. Obviously, we had the warm weather training out in Dubai. we've said goodbye to a few players, so we are now playing with a much reduced squad. We've cleared the deadwood, and it's time to press on. We've got no cups to worry about now. Obviously, going out to Nottingham Forest in the last round of the FA Cup. We're not in the League Cup anymore after being knocked out by Liverpool. So, yeah, one game a week, possibly two, depending on fixture congestion and missed fixtures and all that sort of business. But, yeah, with Traore going from Wolves, I know they're obviously not just a one-man team, but I know he usually would cause us a lot of problems with his speed and his physicality. And don't get me wrong, I think Wolves, again, are another team on their day that they can punish people. They've got some good goal scorers within their team. But one of the things that we are lacking at the moment is a consistent goal scorer. Yep. I think I mentioned last week that Emile Smith-Rowe is currently our highest goal scorer on 8 goals.
Yep.
Who's had a little bit of injuries over the last few weeks or whatever. We said goodbye to Aubameyang in the last transfer window. You heard how disappointed I was on that on last week's podcast. Mm-hmm. So it's now down to Lacazette, Nketiah, and possibly Martinelli playing up top. Obviously, we're welcoming back Pepe as well from the African Cup of Nations. Mohamed El Neni should be back in time as well, but may get a little bit of breathing room. Thomas Partey will be back into the squad from his suspension for the one or straight red card. The 2 bookings against Burnley, I think it was.
Yep.
So we'll have him back. I think Xhaka's possibly got one more game left, so it'll probably be Partey and Sambi Lokonga in the midfield. Unchanged back four for me, unless we've got any injuries. But I think this is going to be, I'm going to be very optimistic on this one. We are travelling away from home, which we do struggle from occasionally, but I'm going to put us down as a win on this one, and I'm going to go for 2-1 to Arsenal.
Is it interesting? It is interesting. I do think you hit the nail on the head there. You've not got an out-and-out goal scorer, which is something you've not really struggled with over the years. You've always had a goal scorer as such. And usually defensively you're a little bit more vulnerable, but it's flipped. Traore, although he seemed to do all right on his debut and he's unveiling where he could actually keep uppies for Barcelona, he's not been great for Wolves this season. Do you know what? I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves, just to be different.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know. That could be a boring 0-0 draw, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 Wolves. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't know. And then last but certainly not least, the goal fest that I'm certain will be Leicester versus West Ham. Leicester have been abysmal this year. West Ham, we've been all right, but I think the wheels are about to start coming off. This is difficult because if you go on and beat Watford 3-0, you carry a little bit of confidence, don't you? If you get tonked, then you don't. That's like Michael Owen, isn't it? Fucking hell. If you get beaten, then you lose. I think Leicester are struggling more than us at this current moment, as we speak right now. But they have to turn it around at some point. And I don't know if they're playing a game midweek or whether they've got a little bit of extra rest as well. I'm going to go, and I hate to say this, I'm going to go 1-0 Leicester.
Okay.
A part of me was going to go 5-4, but I'm going to go. No, I'm going to stick with it 1-0.
I'm just checking, see if they've got a midweek game. Oh, I can't see that they have.
No, I don't think they have. An extra bit of rest. See, this is the thing, right?
Oh, no.
Go on.
They've got Leicester. Leicester versus Liverpool. No, Leicester haven't got Leicester. Leicester have got Liverpool.
What, when?
On Thursday, 7:45.
And this game is when?
Sunday.
Okay. 1-1.
Okay.
I've changed it to 1-1. I want to be positive, but I can't.
Okay. I'm going along the same lines as you, in all honesty, that they have been they're having a bit of a torrid season. I anticipate them getting absolutely spanked by Liverpool on Thursday, and I think that's going to be kind of enough's enough. And I think we could be talking last chance saloon for Brendan Rodgers at Leicester.
Yep.
If he doesn't start picking up results fairly soon. And I think after a Tonkin against Liverpool, I think that could be the game where, as you mentioned, the wheels are come off for West Ham.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1 to Leicester on that one.
I think if he doesn't win at least 2 out of the next 3, I think he's probably gone. And I don't like to say that because I think the Leicester owners seem to be pretty sound, don't they, in sticking with owners, managers and things like that. But yeah, I think 3 results. Although here's another thought on that. Not too long ago, I know they won the Premier League and they've been up the right end of the table. They were Championship fodder, weren't they? Really, not too distant past. So should they be aiming for top 4, or should they be aiming for top half of the table?
See, that's one of those difficult ones, isn't it? Where they've kind of overachieved. I would say in recent years, obviously with the Premier League, they won the FA Cup and the Community Shield.
Yeah.
Back end of last year and into this year. So I think there is kind of like that expectation amongst some of their fans. I would say possibly the majority of their fans.
Yeah,
they've got some outstanding players. But you're right. I think maybe they are overachieved, or because they have overachieved, there is that level of expectancy amongst their fans. And let's be honest. I think for the most part over the last couple of years they've been at least top 8 for a large portion of those seasons, and I do think maybe that they are possibly overachieving. When you look at the teams that you've got around them, certainly within the top 6. As it stands at the moment, obviously you've got your Spurs, your Arsenals, West Hams, Liverpool, Man City, Man United are obviously pushing as well. I think it's going to be possibly, I think the top 2, Man City and Liverpool, is going to be fought out amongst those 2 this season. Chelsea, I think they've had 1 or 2 bad results, which I think is going to take them out of the title race. Not impossible, but
they've got their keeper back now, haven't they? So.
But I just think the damage for that has already been done when you look at the position of the other 2 teams.
Yep.
But I think this is possibly going to be one of the tightest top 6.
Yeah.
From 3 to 6. I think it's going to be one of the tightest ones that we've seen in a long while.
I think it could go to 8. 3 to 8. I think could be within 5 points at the end of the season. Because you got your traditional top 6, haven't you? Then you got West Ham in there. Then theoretically you got Leicester in there, and then because you think we were sitting 3rd, and if the teams around us win their games in hand, we'll go down to 10th. Brighton are still kicking around up there. I think Wolves are in the top 10. So it's all very quite close, but yes, interesting. But that being said, there is a new manager in the league. Not Roy Hodgson. Frank Lampard. Got announced. I have to say he did very well in his first game in charge. Everton looked revitalised, trying to play some sort of fast attacking football. But there is one man throughout his career that they has been compared to, and vice versa. That man is Steven Gerrard. So the question is, well, it's no longer who was the better midfielder. The question is, who's the better manager? And some people will say it's difficult to say because they're still both early in their careers. But let's put it this way. I'm going to give you some statistics, Mike, and then maybe you can give me some thoughts. So one manager has managed 235 games. The other, I've just got rid of the statistic. Give me a moment. I've just deleted it. It has managed 142. Which manager is what?
I'm gonna go for the 200 odd is Frank Lampard. The 142, I think you said, is Steven Gerrard.
No, that's the other way around. 142 Frank Lampard, 200 odd for old Gerrard. But
really,
yeah, and
Alex, is that taking into account the under?
This is taking into account every game they've managed. So what I'll do is I'll run through some statistics quick. Who do you want first, Gerrard or Lampard?
We'll go with Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard. Okay. So Steven Gerrard started his career at Liverpool, playing for the under-18s, and he progressed from there. No, he did start for the under-18s, where he took over. I didn't put the dates in, stupidly enough. I should have done. But he was in charge there for a total of 10 months and 30 days. He managed 24 matches in total, winning 1.71 points per game. He then took over Liverpool FC YL, which is the UEFA Under-19s Cup thing, at the same time. So after 2 months of being in the Under-18s, he took over that. So in realistic timelines, he was in charge of that for 8 months and 30 days. But they only played 8 matches. And he won 2.25 points per game. So that was his youth thing. Then Rangers came a-calling, and he was there for 3 years, 5 months and 9 days, which seems a little bit mad, really. In that time, he managed them for 192 matches, winning 2.15 points per game. And I have put in here, so he's a I'll get into that in a bit. He came second, and then did an undefeated season in first. And then he did a little bit, obviously, of this season. And then he's moved to Aston Villa, and he's been in charge currently 2 months and 26 days. He's had 11 matches and won 1.45 points per game. So there's some statistics on him. I'll go through everything. So in terms of transfers, and what these transfers are, is going to be a big number. But that's also counting, what it counts is arrivals. And essentially, I couldn't be bothered to sift through every player and see who was already at the club. Because if a player returns from loan, it counts as a transfer in. So in his time in management, Steven Gerrard has brought into clubs 83 players. So some of them will be free transfers, some of them will be loans from other clubs, some will be loans returning to that club, and obviously others are transfers. Out of 83, how many do you think held a transfer fee?
Judging by that look on your face, I think it's going to be very small. Possibly, so 83 players, you said, yeah?
Yes, 83.
So are you looking for the number of players that have had transfer fee or the value of the transfers?
No, let's do the number of players with a transfer fee.
8.
Ooh, not far. 14. 14 players he paid for with a fee. And that fee, was it higher or lower than 50 million?
Lower.
It was lower. It was £31,286,700, according to reported transfer fees. So we'll get on to it. We'll play a little game with their highest transfer price for a player. But we'll move on to Frank Lampard. So Frank Lampard started off at Derby, or Derby as it's pronounced. He was there for 1 year and 2 days. He managed 57 matches, averaged 1.63 points per game, and finished 6th in the Championship. That season, they did get all the way to Wembley, and he lost in the playoff final. Now, there is something to be said. He left at that point, and Mel Morris, who runs Derby, said we're in dire straits. If we'd made it to the Premier League, we would have been all right. But that was the point where the wheels were coming off and their financial things were really apparent. So I think he did quite well, considering those restrictions were still there, but from internal the club, not external. Chelsea then came a-calling. He was there for a total of 1 year, 6 months and 21 days. He managed 84 matches, 1.75 points per game. He finished fourth in his first season, and that was the season that they'd lost Eden Hazard and had a transfer ban. And in his second season, he did get sacked partway through when they were ninth, but Chelsea did go on to finish fourth. And then he's had a year out, and now he's gone to Everton. He's been in charge for a week. He's played one match and averaged 3 points per game. So
he's good. He is.
He is. So Gerrard has brought in 83 players. So the same rules apply. Loans in, transfers in, free transfers, and players returning from loan. Has Lampard brought in more or less players?
I'm going to go for more, just based on the fact that Chelsea have got a much larger academy system, and they're always sending people out. I think they must have about 30 odd people out on loan each season. So I'm going to go Lampard.
This is what I thought before when I was doing my research. But I think it turns out that obviously if they're going into the under-23s team or the under-19s team, it doesn't count as them returning on loan to the first team. But Lampard has brought in a total of 81, so 2 players less. Only 10 with a transfer fee. And how much do you think those 10 have accumulated to? According to reported fees.
Just trying to think who would have gone during that time.
It's not on net. This is just spent. This is how much they've spent over 3 clubs.
I reckon possibly about 220 million.
Ooh, not far off. 235,062,000. So,
because didn't they break the budget for two key? Sorry, wasn't it around about the same sort of time that Alisson joined Liverpool and who was it? Was it Kepa joined Chelsea?
Kepa joined under Sarri.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm thinking but the next game, Mike, is who is the highest transfer that they've made. So I can give you some clues as to what it is. So we'll start off with Steven Gerrard. All I will say is he bought an Englishman while he was at Rangers. Who was that player? It's showing your knowledge of Scottish football now.
Jermaine Defoe.
No, I can give you a position. Left wing.
Yes, love the sound effect. No,
it was Ryan Kent.
Oh, okay.
So some people were thinking he was going to bring him back to Aston Villa with him. Do you know what? I don't even know. Let me load up my soundpad so I know what it is. How much did he buy him for, Mike? Did he buy him for more or less than £15 million?
Less.
Was it more or less than £10 million?
Less.
And was it more or less than £5 million?
Less, I think.
Wrong!
One of those. Oh.
It was 6.48 million, which I think is quite a big transfer for Scotland, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's his record signing thus far. Obviously, bought in called Coutinho, but that's only on loan, so there isn't a big fee associated with that. On the other hand, Frank Lampard at Chelsea brought in a few players, and he brought in a German who has played up front, has played on the wing, and has Tony Cruz, and has played in the midfield. Who is that player? Tony Cruz plays for Real Madrid.
Who's the one I'm thinking of?
Don't know, mate.
Blonde guy.
Timo Werner?
Yeah, him.
No, incorrect. Different German.
Oh.
Good guess. Good guess. He was the second highest at £40 million.
For fuck's sake.
If you know the answer, put it in the comment section. The answer, Mike, is Kai Havertz.
Kai Havertz.
The young 21-year-old midfielder, the highest transfer fee that he has brought in. Now, the question is, Mike, was it more or less than £100 million? And this is in total with add-ons.
Less.
It is less. Is it
more with add-ons?
Yeah, it is less than 100 million. Is it more or less than 80 million pounds?
More.
I don't know why I'm doing sound effects. There's sound effects there. It was actually 72 million pounds. And I got that one right, but that's because it's in front of me. But yeah, so it's 72 million pounds. So there is a stark difference, but obviously Chelsea having a transfer ban, they were always going to go and spend big. Doesn't matter who the manager was. They've spent big under Tuchel as well. So I think that was his downfall at Chelsea. He did very well with the youngsters, and then sort of these other players who weren't used to the physicalities of the Premier League didn't quite work out and were sort of shoehorned into that squad. But who's the better manager? Do you want one more statistic?
Got him.
So what I've done is I've looked on the coefficients for every league, and there is a league table, you can find it, and there's algorithms as to how the coefficients are made, and this and that. I won't get into that because it's boring as shit. But Derby are 11th. In the world rankings of league football, they play in the 11th hardest league. Chelsea play in the first, obviously the hardest league, and so do Everton. Now, Gerrard, the first two teams he managed, the under-18s, they're not in there. They're not even classed as a proper league. He then went to Rangers, which is 19th. It's the 19th hardest league, and then he's only just gone into the first hardest league, or the hardest league. So, yeah, that does come into my thoughts a little bit as to who's done the better job. But, yeah, go on, give us your thoughts. Who's done the better job? Now you've had some statistics, and we've had a little game. Who's the better manager, Mike? We need answers.
To be honest, I think this is going to be a very much kind of like their England career, or their professional playing career, shall I say, where you're trying to compare both players. Couldn't fit them both into an England system that would work in World Cups and all that sort of stuff. I think it's going to be very much 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. It's going to be so hard to call them. You could say on one side that the job he's done at Rangers were a club that were in a bit of dire straits. Obviously, they started to improve just before he got the manager's job, but they wanted someone with kind of, I suppose, that elite mentality, and managed to win them the league. So it was the first time they'd done it, I think, in about 20 odd years or something stupid, and to do it the whole season undefeated as well. That's no mean task, especially with the likes of Celtic as well. But as you mentioned, it's the 19th hardest league, and there's really, I'd say possibly two, 3 or 4 teams within the Scottish League that you would really have to kind of compete, including themselves. So compete against 3 other teams in order to win that league. But then obviously you look at the job that he's doing at Aston Villa, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
Whereas you look at Frank Lampard, Derby, I think they were quite unfortunate to get eliminated on the final of the playoffs, or not eliminated, but to lose that final. But maybe it was kind of a blessing in disguise for Frank Lampard, obviously because that opportunity come up at Chelsea.
Yep,
it was his club. Let's be honest. I know he obviously was at West Ham and in his younger days, but let's be honest, he's
Chelsea.
You're Tony Adams of Chelsea world, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
So, but he did an average job. And I think that was one of the reasons why he got the sack, is because he was doing an average job. And it's still early days into his Everton career. To be honest, I think it's a brilliant fit for them.
Yeah.
Obviously made a couple of signings on deadline day. And it's going to be one of those ones that you just kind of need to watch out for. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that Everton will be challenging with Frank Lampard at the helm. But then again, I don't expect Aston Villa to be challenging with Steven Gerrard at the helm. I think Everton will be safe this season now. I think Frank Lampard will go in and steady the ship, stop the rot, if you like. Obviously, with the first win under his belt at the weekend, which is brilliant news. What way to start off your managerial career. But is this just a new manager bounce? But likewise, we are starting to see players come back from injury at Everton as well, which I think they're players that have been sorely missed over the last few weeks / months.
Yeah.
I'm waffling because I don't know the answers to that question.
Well,
it's a very difficult one to answer.
It's an opinionated question, isn't it? Really, and here's my opinion, if you'd like it. Actually, no, let's precursor it. I did run a poll. It's still ongoing, but Lampard is in the lead by 100% on Twitter at this moment. And I think a number of it does go down to some points you've hit. Rangers play in, say, what's known as a two-team league. It still took him 3 seasons to overcome a Celtic side who are arguably the worst that they've been in 30 years. He's taken, so he's done all right, but he's taken over at Aston Villa and he's doing all right. But he's faced no adversity in his career. And I think getting things wrong and losing, you learn a lot from. I think a lot of managers will attest to that. Where Lampard, I think, overachieved at Derby, or getting him to a playoff final. At Chelsea, he went in, was told, okay, you've got to compete at the highest level with the best clubs in the world in your second season in management, so that's hard enough. Oh, by the way, the best player in Europe at this moment has left, and you can't replace him, and you can't bring anyone in, and a number of other senior players left at that time as well. And he brought in a load of youth through the academy, and I think overachieved with them, if I'm honest, to finish 4th. There were some ropey games in there. There were some good games in there. Second season, as I said, he brought in all these players, but I think I'm not saying they were all his players, but there were players coming in regardless, whether he wanted to sign or not, because they needed some sort of marquee names. Mm-hmm. And I think that went against him a little bit because some of those ropey results won't stand when you spent £200 million. It doesn't flow like that. And then he got sacked. And obviously, it's not unusual. You've seen some of the best managers in the world be sacked at Chelsea after winning stuff. So, I mean, if he was given the same amount of time as Ollie, would he have won more things? I think he probably would have. But he's gone away, he's regrouped, he's whatnot, and he's come back. So, at this moment, I'm going to say Lampard is the better manager because he's managed more games in tougher leagues than Gerrard has. When you look at it, if you look at in the top, let's take the top 15 leagues of the world coefficient. Gerrard's managed 11 matches in them. All of Frank Lampard's 192, whatever I said it was, 142 are in the top 15. Well, actually, they're in the top 11 hardest leagues to manage in the world. But yeah, I think because of that adversity that he's faced throughout his career, as I say, the transfer ban, the being sacked, the having to come back from it, I think that makes him, or potentially gives him the potential to be a better manager than Gerrard at the moment, because he should, if he hasn't learned from those mistakes and improved on bits and pieces, then it would turn out that he's a shambles, and Gerrard will then go on to be the better manager. But I think, yeah, as it stands, he has to be, just because of the level that he's managed at, and the adversity that he's faced while doing so. That's my opinion. What I'd be interested to know is our viewers. I'll put a little poll on the podcast audio, so if you're on Spotify, then get in there and let us know who you think is the better manager. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I think potentially they both have the ability to go on and become great managers, as well as they were players. No doubt Lampard was a better player, more goals, more assists, more everything than Gerrard.
Trophies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Gerrard beat West Ham in an FA Cup final after a message about fucking the attendance. So, and he claims that's his favourite goal ever. It's like, well, no wonder why. I think that was one of like 3 trophies you won in your career. But yeah, not that I'm bitter. But yeah, no, I think he has the ability to go on a match, if not surpass Lampard. There's no doubt that potential's there. But yeah, that's my opinion for what it's worth. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that was very, very comprehensive. I've really enjoyed that. It was good.
Very good. Well, then on that note, we will leave this week's podcast here. It will be up on everywhere you consume your podcasts. If you want the video version, it is on YouTube. Go and subscribe. FDT-TV. Look for the big yellow cup. If not, we will see you next week. Well, we won't see you, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks very much.